Ne maradj le a legújabb Vakondok rész a Stems Back limitált gyűjtői kiadásáról.
When I was 12 or 14 years old, I had a huge passion for video games, and I was very good at playing a lot of the arcade games, and that led on to trying to find a direction in video games. Started off as a photographer's assistant in London, but realized very soon that that really wasn't what I wanted to do. And I decided to set up a company with 3 other people. We got together, one of them pulled out, the other 2 stayed with us. And because one of them was doing a computer course called System Studies, and there was 3 of us, System 3 was born. And that was back in 1982. Actually, it was Atari that led me to this path, because I was doing some work for their magazine, IO magazine, which is an Atari magazine for 400, 800 users. And I'd done some photographic work for them and complained about a number of their games on the VCS and other formats that were not very good, I didn't think, in terms of what people could achieve. And a chap there called John Knowledge said, well, why don't you go and set up your own game? You seem to have a clear idea as to what games you want to do and how games should play. Why didn't you set up your own company? And this is what we did. I think in those days, no one had any idea that the business would grow to what it is now. Back then, it was a fraction of the size of the music business. But now, if you think games is now bigger than the music and film industries combined, it's quite phenomenal, the growth. But no one knew at the time it was going to be the monster of an industry it is today. I think at that time, you could see a lot of people were getting into home computer games because they were experiencing an arcade feel that they wanted to take home. And home computers offered that. So, of course, we felt that the market was going to grow. Did we think it would be as big as today? No, absolutely not. But we were confident at that time that video games would be extremely popular and would continue to grow, because obviously all the feedback we had and the phenomenal success of the Atari VCS, which was effectively the first console in the world, and then the launch of the computers, whether it's a Spectrum or Commodore 64, Atari 400, 800, then Amiga and ST, for sure, we knew that this was going to be a big thing for the future. I think really the fact that technology and what we were doing then was so different, you could see that this was a great path to make your way into an industry that's very, very new, that didn't have a structure in place at that stage. And so there was a strong chance of success. If someone tried that today or tried to do what we did today, it would be very, very difficult for them to be lucky enough to be at the right place at the right time to break into an industry. So we always knew that the market would expand, that there was a market for video games because how popular arcade games were, and people wanted to experience an arcade experience at home, as I said earlier. So we always felt that there was going to be an industry that was going to continue to grow, but we didn't think it would be as big as it is today. We always, as a team, liked the idea of the arcade and action. And at the time, martial arts were very, very popular. And so if you're looking for a theme, of course, whether it was karate and it then moved on to ninjas, it seemed to be the right path. But what gave us the idea is to try and combine the idea of an adventure game with a martial arts feel adventure. And that's kind of really what inspired myself to conceptualize where The Last Ninja would sit in the market. Did I think it would be as big as it was? Absolutely not. I didn't think it was going to be that big, but it hit the right spot. And fortunately, the team that delivered the game were fantastic. It was a revolutionary product for its time. and means a lot to many, many people still today. It's an important part of a lot of people's childhood. But like a lot of games you start off with, you just don't know where they're going to finish. You don't know if it's going to be a great game or not until the game's actually finished. The whole Last Ninja series was, we believe, the best-selling game on the home computer format, not on consoles, on the home computer format. And I think really at the time, it was extremely revolutionary for what we achieved and set out. The vision we had, which was not just a text adventure, but try to put arcade action into a graphical adventure, was unique at the time. There was a lot of adventure games from America that, though they had text and then they had text with high resolution, just static backgrounds, all you did was type in a response. What we wanted was to combine the elements of adventure with an arcade feel. And I think that's what made Last Ninja so successful for us, and still a milestone product in terms of the video game history. A lot of things have changed. Now you've got sophisticated art packages that does a lot of the work for the artist. So therefore, you don't need to be a skilled technician in the same way as you had to be back then. You had to be innovative. You had to work with restrictions. There aren't the restrictions now so much that there were back then. You had limited colors back then. Now you've got millions of colors to play with. And of course, you've got models which you can apply textures to, and you can get programs to animate for you. Back then, you had to do everything by eye and do it within sprites. And it was a much more skilled process than what is required today. A good artist today can create phenomenal work on some of the art packages that are available. Also, today you've got a lot of engines that people buy into, and the engines allow the art to then work on a variety of machines, and it does a lot of the work for you as well. Again, back then you had to do different graphics for different machines because each machine had its own particular graphic resolution or style or palette set of colors that would be different. And so really what people got out of those machines back then was quite incredible, really. I think selling a game was a lot easier back then because there wasn't as many people doing it. Because technology now has made the availability of development accessible to most people, there's so much development in the world that you really need a hook today for something to be very, very successful, or you just need to be lucky. You can have a great game that is not noticed because there are so many games coming out all the time. And the industry is really still led by a lot of regular brands that have an annual release, whether it's a Call of Duty or a FIFA or Assassin's Creed. So it's very, very difficult for a lot of developers to compete against a lot of these large brands. And of course, then you've got a lot of franchises, whether it's Lego or whether it's some of the other brands out there that also take up a lot of people's mindset. The biggest problem really is the amount of time people have to play a video game now. And people are very casual about it. They get into it, they want to pick up, play the game instantly. And if they don't like the game, they'll put it down within a few minutes. You've got to capture someone instantly. Why? Because today with social media, there's so many other things that you can do with today's technology and what you do in your time, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, all of the other aspects that are taking people's time away, their spare time. Whereas back in the 80s, you didn't have that. So if people had spare time, they're focused on trying to find a way to make a game work and to be successful in playing a game. And they had more time and patience to get into the game. With that problem today, if a game doesn't work instantly, and even then, if it's a great game and it does work instantly, it takes a lot for it to stand out, to get people's attention, because people are doing so many other things in their spare time that they weren't doing back then.